Good evening. You have reached the Glitch Bureau. Every case in this archive begins the same way: a crime, a circle of suspects, and a trail of evidence that most people overlooked entirely. The archive is open. Let us begin. Tonight's case is the House of Danger. A man arrived at a grand English estate under a false name, carrying a dead man's identity and a living man's mission. The official story was that the patriarch had died of natural causes. What one loyal friend suspected was something else entirely. A deception inside a deception, and a house that held its secrets the way old houses do, in the walls, in the staff, in the silences between conversations. The evidence is all there. Brew a coffee, solve a mystery.
Welcome to House of Danger, The Man Who Was Not Who He Said He Was, by the Glitch Bureau. This book covers the man who was not who he said he was. Chapter 1, The Arrival. The gravel crunched under Richard Mason's feet as he approached the House of Danger, its towering silhouette casting long shadows in the fading light. The mansion, with its grandiose architecture and foreboding aura, seemed to whisper secrets of its own. Richard, stepping into the role of his injured friend Thomas Whitaker, felt the weight of his mission pressing down on him. He had to blend in, to become Thomas, if he was to unravel the mystery surrounding the death of Thomas's father. Inside, the mansion was a labyrinth of opulent rooms and shadowy corridors. The staff, each with their own peculiarities, watched him with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. Richard's task was clear, yet daunting: gather information without revealing his true identity. His resolve was tested further when he met Helen, Thomas's fiancée. Her striking beauty and genuine warmth only complicated his task. As he found himself drawn to her, despite the deception he must uphold, Richard's senses were on high alert, every creak of the floorboards and flicker of candlelight a reminder of the precariousness of his position. The staff's whispered conversations hinted at hidden agendas, and Richard knew that any misstep could unravel everything. As he navigated this initial challenge, he was acutely aware of the thin line he walked between truth and lies. In this house of secrets, Richard had to remain vigilant. The effectiveness of his disguise was notable, but the stakes were high. Trust was a luxury he could not afford, and with each passing moment he edged closer to the heart of the mystery, knowing that danger lurked around every corner. Richard Mason stood at the threshold of the House of Danger, the imposing mansion looming before him like a sentinel of secrets. The air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth, a fitting prelude to the storm of deception he was about to enter. As he adjusted the collar of his coat, he could almost hear the whispers of the past echoing through the corridors, each one a reminder of the perilous path he had chosen. Picture this: a sprawling estate bathed in the pale glow of a fading sun, its windows reflecting the last vestiges of daylight. The mansion, with its Gothic architecture and ivy-clad walls, seemed to breathe with a life of its own. Richard, now assuming the identity of his injured friend Thomas Whitaker, felt the weight of the charade pressing on him. He was here not just to fill Thomas's shoes, but to unravel the mystery surrounding the elder Whitaker's untimely demise. As Richard crossed the threshold, the interior of the mansion enveloped him in an embrace that was both welcoming and foreboding. The grand foyer, with its polished marble floors and towering columns, spoke of wealth and power. Yet, there was an underlying tension, a sense of something amiss. The staff, introduced with perfunctory courtesy, seemed to watch him with eyes that saw more than they revealed. What's crucial here is the first impression Richard needed to make. In a world where appearances were everything, he had to blend seamlessly into the life of Thomas Whitaker. The advantages of his resemblance to Thomas were clear, but the stakes were high. Every interaction, every word spoken, had to be measured and deliberate. Richard's initial goal was simple yet fraught with complexity: gather information without arousing suspicion. His first encounter with Helen, Thomas's fiancée, was a test of his resolve. Helen, with her luminous eyes and an air of innocence, was unaware of the deception unfolding around her. As she greeted him, Richard felt a pang of guilt, knowing that his presence was a lie she would unknowingly perpetuate. Her voice, soft and melodic, was a reminder of the life Thomas had left behind, a life Richard was now entangled in. Generally speaking, first impressions are often shaped by the subtle interplay of actions and reactions. Richard's task was to navigate this delicate dance, ensuring that his portrayal of Thomas was convincing enough to withstand scrutiny. The mansion itself seemed to conspire against him, its labyrinthine corridors and shadowed alcoves a constant reminder of the secrets it sheltered. Each step Richard took echoed with the unspoken question, who could he trust in this house of danger? Building on this, Richard's exploration of the mansion revealed more than just its architectural grandeur. Hidden passages and secret rooms hinted at a history of concealment and intrigue. The walls, adorned with portraits of long-dead ancestors, seemed to watch with knowing eyes, as if challenging him to uncover the truth they guarded. It was within these hidden spaces that Richard hoped to find the answers he sought, clues that would unravel the mystery of the elder Whitaker's death. As he delved deeper into the mansion's secrets, Richard's senses were heightened. The creak of a floorboard, the flicker of candlelight, the faint rustle of fabric, all became signals to decipher, each one potentially revealing or concealing the truth. It was during one such exploration that he overheard a conversation, a hushed exchange that hinted at a conspiracy far deeper than he had imagined. The words, though fragmented, painted a picture of betrayal and deceit, a web in which he was now ensnared. Picture this situation: a shadowed corridor, the air thick with anticipation, as Richard pressed himself against the wall, straining to catch every whispered word. The voices, belonging to individuals he had yet to identify, spoke of secrets that could unravel the very fabric of the Whitaker family. Richard knew he was on the brink of discovery, yet the danger was palpable. A single misstep, a sound out of place, could expose him and shatter the fragile facade he had crafted. Richard's internal conflict grew as he became more entangled in the web of lies. The line between his true self and the persona of Thomas Whitaker blurred, each day a reminder of the precarious balance he maintained. The mansion, both a sanctuary and a trap, held its breath, waiting for the moment when truth and deception would collide. Richard's resolve was tested at every turn, his courage and cunning the only shields against the dangers lurking within. In the days that followed, Richard's interactions with the mansion's inhabitants became a delicate game of strategy. A close call with a suspicious servant, whose eyes seemed to bore into his very soul, raised the stakes even higher. Richard's ability to maintain his composure was paramount, his every move scrutinized by those who might see through his disguise. Yet, amidst the tension, there was also a growing sense of purpose, a determination to see his mission through to its end. The presence of Helen, with her unwitting charm and genuine warmth, added a layer of complexity to Richard's mission. Her interactions with him, filled with an innocence that belied the danger surrounding them, were a constant reminder of the life he was impersonating. Richard found himself drawn to her, his feelings a tangled mix of duty and desire. The challenge was not just to maintain the facade, but to protect her from the storm of deception that threatened to engulf them both. As the days turned into nights, Richard's investigation began to yield results. Clues, once hidden in the shadows, emerged into the light, each one a piece of the puzzle he was determined to solve. The mansion, with its hidden passages and secret rooms, became both a sanctuary and a trap, each discovery bringing him closer to the truth, or further into peril. The stakes were raised, as those who wished to keep the family's secrets buried would stop at nothing to protect them. In a world where appearances were deceiving and danger lurked around every corner, Richard's journey was one of courage and resilience. The line between friend and foe blurred, trust a luxury he could not afford. Yet with each passing day, his resolve strengthened, his determination to uncover the truth unwavering. The mansion, with its secrets and shadows, was a testament to the challenges he faced, a reminder of the perilous path he had chosen. As the chapter of first impressions drew to a close, Richard stood at the threshold of discovery, the weight of his mission heavy upon him. The house of danger, with its echoes of the past and whispers of the present, awaited the revelation of truths long buried. Richard's journey was far from over, the path ahead fraught with challenges and choices that would define his fate. Yet, in the heart of the mansion, amidst the shadows and secrets, he found a glimmer of hope, a promise that the truth, once uncovered, would set him free. Richard Mason stood in front of the ornate mirror in his guest room, adjusting the tie that felt more like a noose with each passing second. The grandeur of the House of Danger was overwhelming, its opulence a constant reminder of the deception he was about to undertake. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside his head. Today he was to meet Helen, Thomas Whitaker's fiancée, and the thought made his pulse quicken. The mansion, with its high ceilings and echoing hallways, seemed to amplify his anxiety. Richard's mind raced with questions. How much did Helen know about Thomas's habits and quirks? Could he convincingly step into the shoes of her beloved without arousing suspicion? The stakes were high, and failure was not an option. As he descended the grand staircase, the clatter of his footsteps on the polished wood seemed to mock his trepidation. The drawing room awaited, a place of elegance and potential peril. Richard paused at the door, steeling himself for the encounter that could either solidify his charade or unravel it entirely. Upon entering, the room's opulence was immediately apparent. Rich mahogany furniture, a grand piano, and walls adorned with portraits of Whitaker ancestors. Yet it was Helen who captivated his attention. She stood by the window, the sunlight casting a halo around her auburn hair. Her elegance was undeniable, but it was the subtle sadness in her eyes that struck Richard the most. She turned, offering a warm smile that seemed to reach out and pull him into her world. "Thomas, it's so good to see you," Helen greeted, her voice a soothing melody that belied the tension Richard felt. "Helen," Richard replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "It's been too long." Their initial exchange was filled with the usual pleasantries, but Richard was acutely aware of the undercurrents. Helen's anecdotes about Thomas were laced with affection, painting a picture of a man Richard was only beginning to understand. Each story was a puzzle piece, and Richard listened intently, nodding and smiling in all the right places, careful to mirror Thomas's mannerisms as best he could. As the conversation deepened, Helen's expression shifted, a shadow crossing her features. "Thomas has seemed different lately," she confided, her voice tinged with concern. "I can't quite put my finger on it, but something's changed." Richard's heart raced, the weight of his deception pressing down on him. "It's been a challenging time," he offered, choosing his words with care. "But I'm here now, and things will get better." Helen's eyes searched his, seeking reassurance. "I hope so. I found a letter among your father's things. It seemed odd. I thought it might have something to do with his death." This revelation sent a jolt through Richard, his mind immediately calculating the implications. The letter could be the key to unraveling the mystery that had brought him here. Yet, he maintained his composure, feigning ignorance while internally plotting how to acquire this crucial piece of evidence. Their conversation continued, a delicate dance of words and emotions. Richard found himself drawn to Helen, her warmth and sincerity a stark contrast to the deceit he was perpetuating. Despite the layers of lies, an undeniable chemistry simmered between them, complicating his mission in ways he hadn't anticipated. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the room, Helen rose to leave. "I'm glad we had this time together," she said, her hand lingering on his arm. "I hope we can talk more soon." Richard nodded, the mix of hope and dread swirling within him. "I'd like that," he replied, his voice betraying none of the turmoil beneath. As Helen departed, Richard remained in the drawing room, the silence amplifying his thoughts. This meeting had been more than a test of his acting skills. It had been a glimpse into the heart of the woman who unknowingly held the power to unravel his carefully constructed facade. Richard knew that his growing feelings for Helen could either be his salvation or his downfall. The stakes had never been higher, and the path ahead was fraught with peril. Yet, he couldn't shake the sense that this encounter had set in motion a series of events that would ultimately lead him to the truth. With renewed determination, Richard resolved to find the letter Helen had mentioned. It was a thread that might lead him to the answers he sought, and he couldn't afford to let it slip through his fingers. The House of Danger was a labyrinth of secrets, and Richard was determined to navigate its treacherous corridors, no matter the cost. As he left the drawing room, the weight of his mission settled heavily on his shoulders. The line between truth and deception was blurring, and Richard was acutely aware that each step he took brought him closer to both the truth and potential disaster. The encounter with Helen had changed everything. It had deepened his internal conflict, raising the emotional stakes and propelling him forward with a renewed sense of urgency. The mysterious letter was now at the forefront of his mind, a beacon guiding him toward the heart of the mystery. In the days that followed, Richard's interactions with Helen became more frequent, each meeting a blend of genuine connection and calculated deception. He found himself drawn to her warmth and strength, even as he struggled to maintain the charade. The chemistry between them was undeniable, adding layers of complexity to his mission. As Richard continued to navigate the intricacies of the Whittaker household, he knew that the path ahead was fraught with danger. The mansion, with its hidden passages and whispered secrets, was both a sanctuary and a trap. But Richard was determined to see his mission through, to uncover the truth and bring justice to the Whittaker family. The meeting with Helen had set the stage for future developments, deepening Richard's resolve and setting in motion a series of events that would ultimately lead to the resolution of the mystery. The stakes were higher than ever, and Richard knew that his growing feelings for Helen could either be his salvation or his undoing. As he prepared for the challenges ahead, Richard was acutely aware that the House of Danger held many secrets yet to be uncovered. The journey was far from over, and Richard was determined to see it through to the end, no matter the cost. Chapter 2: Secrets in the Shadows. The mansion loomed in the dim light, its grandeur shadowed by an air of mystery that seemed to cling to every corner. As Richard pressed forward, the creak of the wooden floorboards beneath him echoed like a whispered warning. His heart raced with each discovery, hidden passages that snaked through the walls, leading to secret rooms that held echoes of the past. One evening, while tracing the intricate patterns of the wallpaper, Richard stumbled upon a narrow door concealed behind a tapestry. Inside, dust motes danced in the beam of his flashlight, revealing a room that seemed untouched by time. It was here, amidst the shadows, that he overheard voices, a hushed conversation that sent shivers down his spine. The words were cryptic, yet the intent was clear. The elder Whittaker's death was no accident. Richard's pulse quickened as he realized the depth of the conspiracy. His thoughts were interrupted by the sudden appearance of a servant, his eyes filled with suspicion. The close call forced Richard to retreat, his mind a whirlwind of questions and doubts. Was he in too deep? Could he trust anyone in this house of secrets? Each revelation seemed to pull him further into the mansion's dark embrace, yet the allure of the truth was irresistible. As he navigated this labyrinth of lies, Richard grappled with his own deception, questioning his motives and the morality of his actions. The shadows whispered their secrets, but with every answer, a new mystery emerged, drawing Richard ever deeper into the heart of danger. The morning air was thick with anticipation, as Richard Mason stepped quietly into the grand foyer of the Whittaker mansion. The early hour cast a peculiar stillness over the vast estate, a silence punctuated only by the distant echo of a grandfather clock ticking solemnly somewhere within the house. Richard, lantern in hand, felt the weight of the mansion's history pressing down upon him, as if the very walls were whispering secrets long kept hidden. His exploration began with a cautious step into the dimly lit corridors, where shadows danced eerily along the wooden panels, each creak of the floorboards beneath him a reminder of the mansion's age and mystery. The architecture of the Whittaker estate was a labyrinth, a carefully crafted maze of hallways and concealed rooms that seemed designed to confound and conceal. Richard's heart pounded with a mix of excitement and trepidation as he ventured deeper, drawn by the promise of uncovering truths buried within these walls. It wasn't long before Richard's curiosity led him to the library, a room filled with the scent of aged leather and dust. Here, the flickering light of his lantern revealed rows of books, their spines lined like sentinels guarding the knowledge of generations past. It was behind a heavy tapestry, depicting a scene of pastoral tranquility, that Richard discovered a hidden passageway. The tapestry, slightly askew, seemed to beckon him closer, and with a gentle tug, the fabric gave way to reveal a narrow entrance. Stepping into the passage felt like crossing a threshold into another world. The air was cooler here, the walls lined with cobwebs that glistened in the lantern's glow. As Richard moved cautiously through the passage, he found himself in a series of interconnected rooms, each filled with relics of the Whittaker family's past. Dusty antiques cluttered the spaces, and portraits of stern ancestors lined the walls, their eyes following his every move with an unsettling intensity. One portrait in particular caught Richard's attention, a painting of Thomas's father, the elder Whittaker. Unlike the other portraits, this one bore a subtle change in expression, a hint of something unsaid lurking in the depths of the patriarch's eyes. Richard leaned in closer, his mind racing with possibilities. Could this be a clue, a message left for those perceptive enough to see it? The thought sparked a flame of curiosity within him, urging him to delve deeper into the mansion's mysteries. As Richard continued his exploration, he stumbled upon a conversation that would change the course of his investigation. Hidden from view in one of the secret chambers, he overheard two servants speaking in hushed tones. Their words were laced with conspiracy, hinting at a plan and a truth that was poised to come to light. The mention of the elder Whittaker's death, shrouded in suspicion, suggested that the circumstances were far more sinister than anyone had dared to imagine. Richard's heart raced as he realized the implications of what he had heard. The conspiracy he was unraveling was larger and more dangerous than he had anticipated. Yet, even as he absorbed this new information, a sense of urgency propelled him forward. He had to uncover the truth, not just for Thomas, but for himself. The weight of deception bore heavily on his conscience, and his resolve to maintain his facade began to waver. However, Richard's presence did not go unnoticed. A suspicious servant, perhaps alerted by the faint glow of his lantern, nearly caught him in the act of eavesdropping. Richard's pulse quickened as he made a hasty retreat, his mind racing with the knowledge that danger lurked around every corner. This close call served as a stark reminder of the precariousness of his situation and the ever-present threat that shadowed his every move. Internally, Richard grappled with the moral implications of his actions. His initial resolve to deceive and manipulate for the sake of his mission was crumbling under the weight of his growing feelings for Helen, Thomas's fiancée. Her presence in the mansion added a layer of complexity to his task, her innocence and warmth a stark contrast to the web of lies he was entangled in. As he navigated the mansion's treacherous paths, Richard questioned the morality of his deception, wondering if the end truly justified the means. By the time Richard emerged from the hidden passageways, the mansion had revealed both its physical secrets and the deeper layers of his own persona. The exploration left him on edge, a mixture of fear and determination propelling him forward. The mansion, with its hidden paths and shadowy corners, served as a metaphor for Richard's own journey into the unknown, a journey that promised both revelation and peril. The stage was set for further intrigue, with Richard more determined than ever to unearth the truth. Yet, as he ventured back into the heart of the mansion, he couldn't shake the feeling that the secrets he sought to uncover threatened to consume him. The Whittaker estate, with its grand halls and hidden chambers, was a place of danger and discovery, a place where the past and present collided in a deadly dance of deception. As an illustration of the mansion's enigmatic nature, consider the peculiar painting of Thomas's father that Richard discovered. This subtle detail, a mere shift in expression, became a focal point for Richard's investigation. It was a reminder that even the smallest clues could hold the key to unraveling the truth. In the world of mystery and intrigue, where every glance and gesture could be laden with meaning, Richard learned to trust his instincts and question everything he thought he knew. Building on this, the overheard conversation between the servants served as a catalyst for Richard's growing suspicion. Their words hinted at a conspiracy that reached far beyond the walls of the mansion, a conspiracy that threatened to upend everything Richard believed about the Whittaker family. The deciding factor in Richard's quest for truth was his ability to piece together these fragments of information, to see beyond the surface and uncover the hidden motives that drove the players in this deadly game. From research into similar historical mysteries, we know that the outcome of such investigations is often unpredictable. The reality is that the truth can be elusive, hidden beneath layers of deception and misdirection. Yet for Richard, the journey was as much about self-discovery as it was about solving the mystery. As he navigated the mansion's secrets, he also navigated the complexities of his own identity, questioning who he truly was in the face of danger and deceit. As the chapter drew to a close, Richard's resolve was stronger than ever. The mansion had revealed its secrets, but there was still much to uncover. With each step he took, Richard moved closer to the heart of the mystery, driven by a desire for justice and truth. The journey was far from over, and the dangers that lay ahead were as real as the shadows that stalked the halls of the Whitaker estate. The wind howled through the towering oaks that lined the driveway of the Whitaker mansion, a foreboding prelude to the secrets that lay within. The night was thick with anticipation, the kind that clings to the skin and whispers of hidden truths. As Richard Mason, cloaked in the identity of his injured friend Thomas Whitaker, stood before the grand entrance, he couldn't shake the feeling that the very walls of the House of Danger were watching him, waiting for him to slip. Inside, the mansion was a labyrinth of opulence and mystery. The corridors, dimly lit by flickering sconces, seemed to stretch endlessly, each turn leading to another shadowy corner. Richard's footsteps echoed softly on the polished wooden floors, a reminder of the isolation that came with his dangerous charade. Yet it was not the silence that unnerved him, but the hushed voices that seemed to drift through the air like ghosts from the past. One evening, as the clock struck midnight, Richard found himself wandering the halls, drawn by a faint murmur that seemed to emanate from behind a heavy oak door. It was the library, a room steeped in history, its shelves lined with volumes that whispered of knowledge and power. Richard hesitated, his hand poised on the doorknob, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. To eavesdrop was to risk exposure, yet the promise of uncovering a hidden truth was too tempting to resist. Slowly, he turned the knob and slipped inside, the door closing softly behind him. The room was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from the dying embers in the fireplace. Shadows danced across the walls, creating an eerie tapestry of light and dark. Richard moved silently, his eyes adjusting to the gloom, until he found a spot behind a towering bookshelf, out of sight but close enough to hear the conversation unfolding. Two voices, low and conspiratorial, filled the room. One belonged to Edward, Thomas's cousin, a man whose motives Richard had yet to fully decipher. The other was a woman's voice, unfamiliar yet tinged with urgency. "We cannot let him uncover the truth," Edward said, his voice a sharp whisper. "If he finds out what really happened to Thomas's father, it will ruin everything." The woman replied, her tone edged with fear. "But what if he already knows? We can't keep this up forever, Edward. Sooner or later, someone will talk." Edward's response was cold, calculated. "Then we make sure they don't. Remember, silence is our only ally." Richard's heart raced as he absorbed their words. The implication was clear. The elder Whitaker's death was no accident, and those involved were determined to keep it buried. He had stumbled upon a conspiracy, one that threatened not only his mission, but his very life. As the conversation continued, Richard's mind raced, piecing together the fragments of information. The stakes were higher than he had imagined, and the danger more immediate. Yet amidst the fear, a resolve began to form. He had to uncover the truth, not just for Thomas, but for himself. The path was fraught with peril, but it was a path he was determined to follow. Suddenly, the voices ceased, and Richard realized with a jolt that the conversation was over. He waited, holding his breath, until he heard the soft click of the library door closing. Only then did he emerge from his hiding place, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts and plans. As he made his way back to his room, Richard replayed the conversation in his mind, dissecting each word, each nuance. He knew he had to be cautious, for any misstep could be his last. Yet he also knew that the truth was within his grasp, and he was closer than ever to unraveling the mystery that had ensnared him. The following days were a delicate dance of deception and discovery. Richard moved through the mansion with renewed purpose, each interaction a potential source of information. He was careful to maintain his facade, even as he probed for answers, aware that any slip could be fatal. One afternoon, while exploring the east wing, Richard stumbled upon a hidden passageway, cleverly concealed behind a panel in the wall. The air was thick with dust, and the passage was narrow, its walls closing in around him. Yet, it was a discovery that filled him with hope, for it suggested that the mansion held more secrets than he had imagined. As he navigated the passage, Richard's thoughts turned to Helen, Thomas's fiancée. Her presence was a constant reminder of the complexities of his mission. Unaware of his true identity, she had become an unwitting participant in his dangerous game. Richard's feelings for her were growing, a complication he could ill afford. Yet, he couldn't deny the connection between them, a spark that threatened to ignite even in the darkest of circumstances. One evening, as they stood on the balcony overlooking the gardens, Helen turned to him, her eyes searching his. "Thomas, there's something different about you," she said softly. "It's as if you're carrying a burden, one you won't share with me." Richard hesitated, the weight of his deception pressing down on him. "I'm just trying to make sense of everything that's happened," he replied, choosing his words carefully. "There's so much I don't understand." Helen nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I just want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what." The sincerity in her voice was both comforting and painful, a reminder of the trust he was betraying. Yet, it also strengthened his resolve, for he knew that uncovering the truth was the only way to protect her. As the days turned into weeks, Richard's investigation gained momentum. Clues began to surface, each one a piece of the puzzle he was determined to solve. The cryptic letter he found in the study hinted at a betrayal within the family, and the hidden diary he discovered in the attic revealed secrets that had been buried for years. The tension in the mansion was palpable, a silent acknowledgement that the past was closing in. Richard knew that time was running out, and that those who sought to keep the truth hidden would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. One night, as a storm raged outside, Richard found himself in the library once more, poring over the diary's pages. The words were a revelation, a testament to the lies and deceit that had plagued the Whittaker family for generations. Yet amidst the darkness, there was a glimmer of hope, a path that led to the truth. With each passing day, Richard grew more determined, his resolve unshakable. The line between friend and foe blurred, yet he knew that he could no longer afford to trust blindly. The stakes were too high, and the danger too real. As the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Richard prepared for the confrontation that would determine his fate. The showdown would take place in the mansion's secret chamber, a fitting stage for the revelation that would change everything. In the end, it was not just the truth that Richard sought, but the courage to face it and the integrity to see it through. The House of Danger had tested him, challenged him, and ultimately transformed him. And as the storm finally subsided, Richard knew that he had emerged from the shadows, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. The mansion loomed in the dim light, its grand facade casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and twist with a life of their own. Richard Mason, his heart pounding in his chest, navigated the labyrinthine corridors of the House of Danger. Each step he took echoed ominously, a reminder of the secrets hidden within these walls. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional creak of the floorboards, as if the house itself were whispering its mysteries. Driven by a relentless need to uncover the truth about the death of Thomas Whittaker's father, Richard's journey had led him to this pivotal moment. The mansion, with its eerie silence and air of foreboding, was both a sanctuary and a trap. As he moved through the dimly lit corridors, he could feel the weight of history pressing down on him, each shadow a reminder of the past he was trying to unravel. His exploration brought him to the library, a room filled with the scent of old books and dust. The shelves towered above him, filled with volumes that seemed to guard their secrets jealously. It was here, behind a dusty tapestry, that Richard discovered a hidden passageway. The tapestry, faded and forgotten, concealed a narrow, dimly lit corridor, a gateway into the hidden depths of the Whittaker family's history. As Richard stepped into the passageway, the air grew colder, the walls closing in around him. The corridor was narrow, forcing him to move cautiously, each step a calculated risk. The dim light barely illuminated his path, casting flickering shadows that danced along the walls. It was a place untouched by time, a secret kept hidden from the world. It was here, in this forgotten corridor, that Richard overheard a hushed conversation between two servants. Their voices, barely more than whispers, carried through the still air. The dialogue was cryptic, filled with half-spoken truths and veiled threats. Yet, it was enough to suggest a conspiracy that reached beyond the mansion's confines, possibly implicating influential figures in the elder Whitaker's death. The tension in the air was palpable, each word a potential revelation, each pause a moment of suspense. Richard strained to hear, his heart pounding in his chest, aware that this conversation could hold the key to unraveling the mystery. But as he listened, a misplaced step betrayed him. The floorboard creaked loudly, a sound that seemed to echo through the corridor, drawing the attention of the servants. Richard's heart raced as he pressed himself against the shadowed wall, holding his breath, hoping the darkness would conceal him. It was a moment of pure tension, a test of his nerve and quick thinking. He could hear the footsteps of one of the servants approaching, the soft thud of shoes on wood growing louder. This close call was more than just a brush with discovery. It was a catalyst for Richard's internal conflict. He was forced to confront the reality of his deception and the potential consequences if he were discovered. The mansion, with its secrets and hidden dangers, became a metaphor for Richard's own tangled web of lies. It was a moment of introspection, a chance for Richard to reassess his motives and the ethical implications of his actions. As the servant's footsteps paused, Richard held his breath, willing himself to remain still. The seconds stretched into eternity, each one a reminder of the precariousness of his situation. But fortune favored him, and the servant eventually turned away, the footsteps retreating down the corridor. Richard exhaled slowly, relief washing over him, though his heart still hammered in his chest. The encounter left him shaken, the reality of his situation starkly apparent. He retreated to his room, the safety of its four walls, a welcome reprieve from the dangers lurking in the mansion's corridors. Here, in the solitude of his room, Richard reflected on the day's events. The narrative delved into his psyche, exploring his growing anxiety and the weight of the secrets he carried. This introspection added depth to his character, revealing the vulnerability beneath his confident facade. It was a moment of self-awareness, a chance for Richard to confront the fears and doubts that had been gnawing at him. He realized that every action had consequences, and the stakes were higher than he had initially anticipated. The close call served as a turning point in Richard's character arc. He resolved to tread more carefully in his quest for the truth, understanding that the path was fraught with peril. This realization marked a shift in his approach, as he became more determined yet cautious. He knew that uncovering the truth would require not only courage, but also a careful balance of deception and honesty. As the chapter drew to a close, Richard's resolve was strengthened. He understood that the journey ahead would be challenging, filled with dangers and uncertainties. But he was prepared to face whatever lay ahead, driven by a need to uncover the truth and bring justice to the Whitaker family. Close call was essential in maintaining the story's momentum and heightening the suspense. It bridged the gap between Richard's initial discoveries and the deeper revelations yet to come, ensuring a seamless transition to the next chapter. The emotional journey, marked by fear, introspection, and resolve, kept readers engaged, eager to uncover the mansion's secrets alongside Richard. In the heart of the 1930s, a time when shadows seemed to stretch longer and secrets were buried deeper, Richard Mason's journey through the House of Danger was more than just a quest for truth. It was a journey of self-discovery, a chance to confront his own demons and emerge stronger on the other side. As he prepared to delve deeper into the mystery, he knew that the mansion held more secrets than he could have ever imagined, and he was determined to uncover them all. Chapter 3, The Unseen Threat. Richard's heart raced as he unfolded the yellowed paper he had discovered tucked behind a loose brick in the fireplace. The letter's cryptic words hinted at a sinister plot surrounding the elder Whitaker's death, a revelation that sent a chill down his spine. The dimly lit study, with its musty scent and the distant sound of rain tapping against the window, seemed to close in around him. Determined to uncover the truth, Richard approached the family library, where he encountered a family member whose demeanor was as cold as the stone walls of the mansion. Their conversation was a verbal dance, each word carefully chosen, yet Richard sensed an undercurrent of fear and deceit. Helen, with her gentle presence, seemed to be the only beacon of light in this murky world. Her laughter was a balm, yet it complicated Richard's mission. The more time he spent with her, the more his resolve wavered. He could not afford distractions. But her kindness was a siren call he could not ignore. As Richard navigated the treacherous waters of the Whittaker estate, the line between ally and adversary blurred. The mansion's very walls seemed to whisper warnings, their secrets threatening to engulf him. Each step forward brought him closer to the truth, yet also to the precipice of peril. In most cases, such discoveries lead to clarity, but here they only deepened the shadows. Richard realized that trust was a luxury he could no longer afford. The unseen threat loomed larger, and with each passing moment, the mansion revealed itself as both a sanctuary and a trap. The dim glow of a single desk lamp cast long shadows across the study, where Richard Mason found himself amidst a sea of dusty letters and documents. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and ink, a testament to years of accumulated secrets. As Richard rifled through the pile, the silence was broken only by the soft rustle of parchment. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a reminder of the stakes at hand. It was here, in this room heavy with history, that Richard's fingers brushed against something peculiar, a letter folded and yellowed with time. What set it apart was the cryptic code scrawled across its surface, penned in the unmistakable hand of the elder Whittaker. Richard's breath caught as he realized the significance of this discovery. The letter hinted at a betrayal from within the family, suggesting that the elder Whittaker's death was no accident. As he carefully unfolded the letter, Richard's mind raced with possibilities. The code was complex, a puzzle that demanded patience and intellect. He began to decipher it, piecing together the fragments of a narrative that spoke of treachery and deceit. Each line revealed more about the tangled web of familial discord that lay beneath the mansion's opulent veneer. Just as Richard was beginning to make sense of the message, the study door creaked open. He quickly folded the letter and slipped it into his pocket, turning to face the intruder. It was a family member, an uncle perhaps, whose presence was both cordial and unsettling. The man's eyes held a glint of suspicion, and his words, though polite, carried an undercurrent of menace. The conversation that ensued was a delicate dance. Richard had to navigate it with precision, aware that any misstep could expose his true identity. The family member's cryptic comments suggested a deeper knowledge of the elder Whittaker's demise, yet they offered no concrete evidence. The encounter left Richard with more questions than answers, fueling his determination to uncover the truth. Throughout this tense exchange, Richard was acutely aware of Helen's presence in the mansion. Her beauty and grace were a constant distraction, complicating his mission. His feelings for her were a tumultuous mix of admiration and frustration, as he struggled to maintain focus amidst the growing emotional turmoil. Helen, unaware of Richard's true identity, became an unwitting participant in his dangerous charade. As Richard delved deeper into the mystery, the mansion's oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily on him. Every shadow seemed to conceal a threat, and every whispered conversation hinted at conspiracy. The line between friend and foe blurred, and Richard's paranoia grew. He began to question the loyalty of those around him, suspecting that even the walls had ears. The study, once a refuge, now felt like a trap. Richard's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and suspicions, each one adding to the mounting tension. The cryptic letter was a catalyst, propelling him further into the mansion's treacherous underbelly. It was a turning point, a moment of realization and resolve that marked a new chapter in his journey. Despite the danger, Richard's resolve hardened. He knew that the truth lay hidden within the mansion's walls, and he was determined to uncover it. The stakes were higher than ever, and the path ahead was fraught with peril. Yet Richard was undeterred. His courage and integrity would guide him through the darkness as he prepared for the inevitable confrontation that awaited. In the days that followed, Richard's investigation intensified. He sought out clues with renewed vigor, driven by the knowledge that the elder Whittaker's death was not what it seemed. The mansion, with its hidden passages and secret rooms, became both an ally and an adversary. Each discovery brought him closer to the truth, yet also closer to danger. As an illustration of the mansion's duplicitous nature, Richard stumbled upon a hidden diary in the library. The diary, belonging to the elder Whitaker, contained entries that revealed shocking family secrets. It spoke of long-held grudges and whispered alliances, painting a picture of a family torn apart by ambition and greed. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the mystery, further blurring the line between right and wrong. Richard's journey through the House of Danger was a test of his wits and courage. He had to rely on his instincts to navigate the treacherous waters of deceit, aware that trust was a luxury he could ill afford. Each step brought him closer to the heart of the mystery, yet also closer to those who would stop at nothing to keep the family's secrets buried. The emotional weight of his mission was compounded by his growing feelings for Helen. Their interactions were charged with unspoken emotions, and Richard found himself torn between his personal desires and the greater goal. Helen was both a source of comfort and a potential distraction, adding depth to Richard's character and illustrating his internal struggle. The narrative tension reached its peak as Richard pieced together the clues. The cryptic letter, the hidden diary, and the family's cryptic comments all pointed to a single conclusion. The elder Whitaker's death was a calculated act of betrayal. Richard's determination to uncover the truth was unwavering, even as the danger mounted. By the end of this pivotal chapter, Richard was more resolved than ever to solve the mystery. The stakes were high, and the mansion's secrets were more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Yet he was prepared to face whatever lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that the truth was within his grasp. Cryptic Clues was a turning point in Richard's journey, marking a moment of realization and resolve. It was a bridge between discovery and action, setting the stage for the subsequent revelations and confrontations that would define his quest for justice. As Richard prepared to confront the true antagonist, he knew that the path to the truth was fraught with danger, but he was ready to face it head-on. The mansion loomed in the twilight, its shadowed walls whispering secrets long buried. Richard Mason stood in the dimly lit study, the cryptic letter spread before him on a mahogany desk. The words seemed to dance in the flickering candlelight, each line a puzzle piece hinting at betrayal within the Whitaker family. The notion that someone close to the elder Whitaker might have orchestrated his demise weighed heavily on Richard's mind. He scanned the letter again, searching for clarity in its veiled accusations. As the evening deepened, Richard left the study, his footsteps echoing through the mansion's labyrinthine corridors. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and mystery. It was then he encountered Helen, her eyes red from tears, her distress palpable. Despite the gravity of his mission, Richard felt a pull to comfort her. Helen's vulnerability was a stark contrast to the mansion's imposing grandeur. "Richard," she began, her voice trembling, "I don't know who to trust anymore." He nodded, encouraging her to continue. Helen's suspicions about her family members spilled forth, each word a thread in the tangled web of deceit. She spoke of her uncle, a man with a notorious temper and a history of disputes with her father. Richard listened intently, aware that Helen's insights could be crucial to unraveling the mystery. Later, as the family gathered for dinner, the tension was almost palpable. Richard found himself seated with Helen, her uncle, and other family members. The atmosphere was charged with unspoken accusations, the clinking of cutlery a stark counterpoint to the silence. Richard observed the dynamics at play, noting the uncle's defensive posture and evasive responses when questioned about his whereabouts on the night of the elder Whitaker's death. His nervous gestures and attempts to deflect suspicion onto others did not go unnoticed. During a lull in the conversation, Richard seized the opportunity to speak privately with another family member, a cousin who seemed eager yet hesitant to reveal a secret. The cousin's eyes darted nervously around the room, clearly fearing repercussions from the rest of the family. Richard's persuasive skills were put to the test as he coaxed information from the reluctant cousin. This moment underscored the theme of trust and betrayal that permeated the evening. The emotional crescendo came when Helen, emboldened by a mix of frustration and determination, confronted her uncle in front of the family. "You're hiding something," she accused, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Her boldness took everyone by surprise, including Richard. The uncle's reaction was one of anger and denial, his face flushed with indignation. This confrontation served as a catalyst, forcing hidden resentments and secrets into the open. Throughout the evening, Richard's internal conflict was highlighted. He was torn between his growing affection for Helen and his commitment to uncovering the truth. The family's internal discord was both a hindrance and a key to solving the mystery. As he prepared for the next steps in his investigation, Richard understood that the tensions within the Whittaker family were intricately linked to the danger lurking within the mansion. This chapter in Richard's journey seamlessly bridged the gap between previous events and the escalating stakes of the narrative. It deepened the reader's understanding of the characters and their motivations while maintaining the suspense and intrigue that defined the story. As Richard reflected on the evening's revelations, he realized that the path to the truth was fraught with peril, but it was a path he was determined to follow. The night wore on, and as the family dispersed, Richard found a moment of solitude in the garden, the cool night air a welcome respite from the charged atmosphere inside. The moon cast a silvery glow on the manicured hedges, and the distant sound of crickets filled the silence. Richard pondered the night's events, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together in his mind. He recalled Helen's courage in confronting her uncle, a pivotal moment that had shifted the dynamics within the family. Her bravery had not only forced the uncle's hand, but also revealed the fractures within the family that had been hidden beneath a veneer of civility. Richard knew that these fractures could be both a weakness and a strength in his investigation. They provided avenues for inquiry, but also warned of the potential for further conflict. As he stood there, a plan began to form. He needed to dig deeper into the uncle's past to understand the nature of his grievances with the elder Whittaker. The cryptic letter had hinted at betrayal, and Richard was determined to uncover the truth, no matter how deeply it was buried. He resolved to speak with the cousin again, to press for more details that could shed light on the family's troubled history. Returning to the mansion, Richard was acutely aware of the eyes watching him from the shadows. The mansion itself seemed to be alive, each creak of the floorboards and whisper of the wind a reminder of the secrets it held. As he made his way to his room, he felt the weight of his dual identity pressing down on him: Richard Mason, the outsider, and Thomas Whittaker, the man he pretended to be. In the quiet of his room, Richard reviewed his notes, the names and connections swirling in his mind. The uncle, the cousin, Helen, each had a role to play in the unfolding drama. He knew that the truth was within reach, but he needed to tread carefully. The family tensions were a double-edged sword, capable of cutting both ways. As he lay in bed, sleep eluded him. His thoughts drifted to Helen, her face etched with determination and vulnerability. He couldn't deny the growing connection between them, a bond forged in the crucible of shared danger and uncertainty. Yet, he was acutely aware of the risks involved. To reveal his true identity could jeopardize everything, not least his burgeoning feelings for her. The night passed slowly, and as dawn broke, Richard rose with renewed resolve. He had a mission to complete, and each step brought him closer to the answers he sought. The mansion, with its secrets and shadows, was a place of danger, but it was also a place where truth could be found, if one knew where to look. As he prepared for the day ahead, Richard understood that the journey was far from over. The family tensions were a thread he would continue to unravel, each revelation bringing him closer to solving the mystery of the elder Whittaker's death. And in the process, he hoped to uncover not only the truth, but also a path forward for himself and for Helen. With a final glance at the cryptic letter, Richard tucked it into his jacket pocket, a reminder of the challenge that lay ahead. The mansion awaited, its corridors echoing with the promise of discovery. As he stepped out into the morning light, he was ready to face whatever dangers the day might bring, driven by a determination to see justice done and the truth revealed. The library of the House of Danger was a sanctuary of shadows and secrets, its towering shelves laden with the weight of history and mystery. Richard Mason, seeking refuge from the relentless storm of deception he had willingly entered, found solace in this secluded corner. The dim light filtered through the stained glass, casting a kaleidoscope of colors on the dusty floor. as if the room itself were alive with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Richard sank into the leather armchair, the cryptic letter clenched in his hand. The letter's implications were as murky as the mansion's corridors, and the burden of his deception pressed heavily upon him. He was impersonating Thomas Whitaker, a man of wealth and influence, to unravel the enigma surrounding the elder Whitaker's death. But as he sat there, the moral quandary gnawed at his conscience. Was the pursuit of truth worth the lies he spun? His thoughts were interrupted by the soft rustle of a dress, a sound as delicate as the fluttering of pages. Helen entered the library, her presence a blend of comfort and unease. Her eyes, deep with suspicion and determination, met Richard's, and he felt the familiar tug of emotions he wished he could ignore. Their conversation began with the usual pleasantries, but the undercurrent of tension was palpable. "Richard," Helen said, her voice a whisper in the vastness of the room, "I can't shake the feeling that there's more to your presence here than meets the eye." Richard's heart skipped a beat. Her words were a knife's edge, cutting through the facade he had so carefully constructed. Yet, in her vulnerability, he saw a reflection of his own turmoil. Helen spoke of her suspicions regarding the elder Whitaker's death, her determination to uncover the truth mirroring his own. This shared purpose forged a connection between them, one that both comforted and complicated his mission. As their conversation deepened, Helen inadvertently revealed that she had noticed discrepancies in Richard's behavior. Her observation was a subtle yet potent reminder of the precariousness of his situation. Richard was forced to think quickly, weaving truths with lies in a delicate dance to maintain his cover. Each word was a step on a tightrope, the abyss of discovery yawning beneath him. In an attempt to deflect suspicion, Richard suggested they work together to investigate the mystery. Helen's eyes lit up with a mix of relief and resolve, and she eagerly accepted his proposal. Yet, this alliance was fraught with tension, as Richard navigated the delicate balance between genuine affection and strategic manipulation. The weight of his growing feelings for Helen threatened to tip the scales, adding another layer of complexity to his already tangled web. Their moment of fragile understanding was shattered by a sudden crash from outside the library. The sound was a jarring intrusion, a reminder of the ever-present danger lurking in the shadows. Richard and Helen rushed to investigate, their footsteps echoing down the dimly lit corridor. They found a shattered vase, its pieces strewn across the floor like the remnants of a broken promise, and caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure disappearing into the darkness. Returning to the library, Richard and Helen shared a moment of silent understanding, their partnership solidified by the shared threat. Yet as Helen departed, Richard was left with a gnawing sense of dread. The line between ally and adversary blurred further, leaving him to question not only those around him, but also his own motives. As the evening wore on, Richard remained in the library, surrounded by the silent testimony of books that had witnessed countless lives unfold. He pondered the moral implications of his actions, the deception that had become his second skin. Was he justified in his impersonation, or was he merely a pawn in a game of shadows? He thought of Helen, her determination and vulnerability, and how they mirrored his own. Their shared purpose was a beacon in the fog of uncertainty, yet it also threatened to be his undoing. The emotional stakes were higher than ever, and Richard realized that his growing affection for Helen might compromise his mission. In the quiet of the library, Richard made a decision. He would continue to pursue the truth, but he would do so with integrity. The path ahead was fraught with danger, yet he was determined to navigate it with courage and resolve. The mansion, with its hidden passages and secrets, was both a sanctuary and a trap, and Richard knew he must tread carefully. The events of the day had deepened the emotional complexity of his journey, highlighting his internal struggle and the burgeoning relationship with Helen. As he prepared to leave the library, Richard felt a renewed sense of purpose. The mystery of the elder Whitaker's death was a puzzle waiting to be solved, and he was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. As Richard stepped into the corridor, the shadows seemed to close in around him, a reminder of the unseen threats that lay ahead. Yet he was undeterred, his resolve strengthened by the knowledge that he was not alone in his quest. Helen's presence, both a comfort and a challenge, would be his guiding light in the darkness. With each step, Richard felt the weight of his deception, but he also felt the stirrings of hope. The path to truth was perilous, but it was a journey he was willing to undertake. The mansion, with its secrets and lies, was a labyrinth he was determined to navigate, and he would do so with the courage and integrity that defined him. The chapter closed with a sense of anticipation, the tension mounting as Richard prepared to face the challenges ahead. The line between friend and foe was blurred, and trust was a luxury he could ill afford. Yet, with Helen by his side, Richard was ready to confront the mysteries of the House of Danger, determined to unmask the truth and reveal the man who was not who he said he was. Chapter 4: The Mask Slips. As the orchestra's gentle melodies filled the air, the clinking of crystal and the soft murmur of conversation created a symphony of elegance at the Whittaker dinner party. Yet, beneath this veneer of sophistication, Richard felt the weight of scrutiny. Every glance seemed to pierce through his carefully crafted disguise, threatening to expose the truth he so desperately needed to conceal. During a toast, a slip of the tongue nearly unraveled his mission, sending a chill down his spine. The room's chandeliers cast long shadows, mirroring the growing sense of danger lurking within the mansion's walls. Richard knew he had to tread carefully, his every move now a delicate dance of deception and survival. Later, in the dim light of a forgotten library, Richard stumbled upon a hidden diary. Its pages, yellowed with age, whispered secrets of betrayal and greed. The revelations about the elder Whittaker's death were as shocking as they were enlightening, providing Richard with the insights he needed to piece together the tangled web of deceit. But the night held yet another surprise. A confrontation with a shadowy figure in the garden left Richard questioning his allies. The figure's cryptic warnings hinted at dangers closer than he had imagined. Trust, already a scarce commodity, became even more elusive. As the evening drew to a close, Richard realized that his journey through the mansion's secrets was far from over. The stakes had never been higher, and with each step toward the truth, the path became more perilous. Yet, despite the risks, his resolve hardened. He would uncover the truth, even if it meant risking everything. The grand dining room of the Whittaker mansion was a spectacle of opulence and shadow, with a long mahogany table stretching beneath a chandelier that twinkled like a constellation of stars. The room was filled with the soft murmur of conversation, punctuated by the clinking of silverware against fine china. It was a scene of elegance, yet beneath the polished surface, a current of tension rippled through the air. Richard Mason, seated at the far end of the table, felt the weight of his borrowed identity pressing down on him. As he glanced around, each face seemed a mask, hiding secrets behind polite smiles. The guests, a mix of family and close acquaintances, were unaware of the deception unfolding in their midst. Richard, assuming the role of Thomas Whittaker, had to navigate this social minefield with precision. Helen, the radiant fiancée of Thomas, sat across from him, her laughter a melody that both charmed and tormented Richard. Her presence was a constant reminder of the precariousness of his situation. He had to maintain the charade, yet every interaction with her was a dance on the edge of discovery. As the evening progressed, Richard's senses were heightened. He noted the subtle exchanges between guests, the fleeting glances, and the whispered words that seemed to carry more weight than the conversation warranted. It was during the main course, a sumptuous roast duck, that Richard's attention was drawn to a conversation between two guests seated nearby. Their voices, though low, carried a hint of urgency. "It's only a matter of time before everything comes to light," one said, casting a furtive glance around the table. The other nodded, replying in a tone laced with apprehension. "We must ensure that doesn't happen. Too much is at stake." Richard's heart quickened. Here was a thread to pull, a clue to unravel the tangled web of deceit surrounding the Whittaker family. But he had to tread carefully. Any misstep could expose his true identity and jeopardize his mission. The dinner party continued, the conversation flowing like a river with hidden depths. Richard engaged in polite banter, all the while his mind raced, piecing together the snippets of information he had gathered. He had to find a way to learn more without arousing suspicion. As the evening wore on, dessert was served, a decadent chocolate mousse that seemed to melt on the tongue. Yet, for Richard, it was hard to savor the sweetness. His mind was consumed with the unfolding mystery. He excused himself, claiming a need for fresh air, and made his way to the garden. The night was cool, the air crisp with the scent of blooming jasmine. Richard walked along the gravel path, his footsteps crunching softly. He needed a plan, a way to delve deeper into the secrets that the mansion held. He knew that the key lay in the conversations he had overheard, but he needed more information. Returning to the dining room, Richard found the atmosphere had shifted. The guests were more relaxed, the wine having loosened tongues and lowered guards. It was the perfect opportunity to probe further. He approached Helen, who was speaking with an elderly aunt, her eyes lighting up as she saw him. "Thomas, there you are," she exclaimed, her voice warm and welcoming. "I was just telling Aunt Margaret about our plans for the summer." Richard smiled, playing the part. "Ah, yes, the summer plans," he said, his mind racing to keep up with the facade. "I was thinking we might visit the coast. It's been too long since we had a proper holiday." Helen's eyes sparkled with delight. "That sounds wonderful," she said, her hand brushing against his. The touch sent a jolt through Richard, a reminder of the emotional entanglement he was navigating. As the evening drew to a close, Richard felt a sense of urgency. He needed to act, to uncover the truth before it was too late. The dinner party had been a dance of deception, each movement calculated, each word a step closer to the edge. But he was determined to see it through, to unravel the mystery and bring the truth to light. In the quiet of his room later that night, Richard reviewed the events of the evening. The conversation he had overheard was a starting point, a clue that could lead him to the answers he sought. He needed to identify the two guests and learn more about their connection to the Whittaker family. He would have to be cautious, employing a strategy that balanced inquiry with discretion. Perhaps a casual conversation during breakfast could yield more information. Or perhaps he could enlist the help of one of the servants, someone who might be willing to share what they knew in exchange for a favor or a small bribe. As he lay in bed, the weight of his deception pressing down on him, Richard knew that the path ahead was fraught with danger, but he also knew that he could not turn back. The stakes were too high, the truth too important to remain buried. He had to see this through to the end, to unmask the man who was not who he said he was, and to bring justice to the Whittaker family. With a resolve as firm as the stone walls of the mansion, Richard closed his eyes, his mind already planning the next steps in his perilous journey. The dinner party had been just the beginning, a prelude to the unfolding drama that would test his courage and cunning. But he was ready to face whatever dangers lay ahead. Ready to uncover the secrets hidden within the house of danger. Richard Mason stood at the threshold of his room, the dim glow of the hallway light casting long shadows on the wooden floor. The events of the dinner party replayed in his mind like a relentless film reel, each moment a reminder of how perilously close he had come to having his true identity exposed. The mansion, with its opulent decor and labyrinthine corridors, felt more like a trap than a sanctuary. He had to be more careful than ever. His thoughts were interrupted by a gentle knock on the door. Richard hesitated for a moment before opening it to find a servant standing there, a small envelope in hand. "For you, sir," the servant said, bowing slightly before retreating back into the shadows of the hallway. Richard's pulse quickened as he recognized Helen's elegant handwriting on the envelope. It was a request for a private meeting. Richard's emotions were a tangled web. He felt a growing affection for Helen, yet he knew that indulging in these feelings could jeopardize his mission. He needed to maintain his disguise and gather information about the mysterious death of Thomas's father. With resolve, he decided to meet her, hoping to discern more about the mansion's secrets while keeping his emotions in check. The library was chosen for their clandestine meeting, its dim lighting and heavy drapes providing the privacy they required. Helen was already there when Richard arrived, her face a mask of concern. "Richard," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "there's something terribly wrong in this house. I can't shake the feeling that my father's death wasn't an accident." Richard listened intently as Helen confided her suspicions about the strange occurrences around the mansion. She mentioned a diary belonging to her father, the elder Whitaker, that might hold the answers they both sought. The possibility of uncovering crucial information was too tempting for Richard to resist. He promised Helen he would help her find the diary. As night cloaked the mansion, Richard embarked on his search. He moved silently through the shadowy corridors, each step a calculated risk. The mansion's creaking floorboards and the ever-watchful eyes of the staff heightened the suspense. His exploration led him to a neglected study hidden behind a false wall, a testament to the mansion's architectural secrets. Inside the study, Richard discovered the diary, its pages yellowed with age and filled with cryptic entries. As he pored over the diary, he uncovered shocking family secrets. The elder Whitaker had been involved in illicit dealings, and his betrayal by trusted associates had ultimately led to his demise. The diary painted a portrait of a man tormented by his choices, trapped in a web of deceit and danger. The revelations from the diary were a turning point for Richard. It became clear that the elder Whitaker's death was not a simple accident, but part of a larger, more sinister plot. This knowledge heightened the stakes. As Richard realized that those responsible for the elder Whitaker's death were still at large, possibly within the mansion itself. As Richard absorbed the diary's contents, the sound of approaching footsteps jolted him back to the present. He quickly concealed the diary and hid, his heart pounding in his chest. A shadowy figure entered the study, searching for something. Richard's mind raced. Could this be the true antagonist, or merely another pawn in the deadly game? The figure lingered for a moment before leaving, and Richard seized the opportunity to escape detection. The encounter left him more determined than ever to uncover the truth. The diary had provided crucial insights, but questions remained unanswered, and the danger was more immediate than ever. In the days that followed, Richard's resolve only strengthened. He moved with heightened caution, aware that every step could lead him closer to the truth, or to disaster. The mansion's corridors, once merely passages, now felt like the veins of a living entity, each turn potentially leading to revelation or ruin. Richard's interactions with the mansion's inhabitants became more calculated. He observed their behaviors, listened to their conversations, and pieced together the puzzle that was the Whitaker family. The diary had hinted at alliances and betrayals that stretched beyond the mansion's walls, and Richard needed to determine who among them could be trusted. Helen remained a constant presence in Richard's thoughts. Her courage and determination to uncover the truth mirrored his own, yet he knew that involving her further could put her in danger. Still, he couldn't deny the connection they shared, a bond forged in the crucible of shared danger and mutual goals. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the mansion in an eerie twilight, Richard and Helen met again in the library. "I found the diary," Richard confessed, his voice low and urgent. Helen's eyes widened, a mixture of relief and fear crossing her features. "What did it say?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Richard recounted the diary's revelations, watching as Helen processed the information. Her father's involvement in illicit dealings, the betrayals that led to his death. It was a lot to take in, but Helen was resolute. "We have to find out who did this," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. As they strategized their next move, Richard felt a renewed sense of purpose. The diary had provided them with a roadmap, but the journey was far from over. They needed to identify the key players in the elder Whitaker's demise and unravel the web of deceit that surrounded them. The mansion, with its hidden passages and secret rooms, became both a sanctuary and a trap. Richard and Helen navigated its corridors with caution, aware that danger lurked around every corner. The line between friend and foe blurred, and trust became a luxury they couldn't afford. One night, as Richard lay in bed, he reflected on the journey so far. The diary had been a revelation, but it was also a reminder of the stakes involved. The truth was within reach, but so was the danger. Richard knew that he had to tread carefully, for the next steps could lead to either salvation or disaster. In the end, the diary discoveries were more than just revelations. They were a call to action. Richard understood that the path to the truth was fraught with peril, but it was a path he was determined to follow. With Helen by his side, he would uncover the mansion's secrets and bring those responsible for the elder Whitaker's death to justice. The air in the house of danger was thick with apprehension, a palpable tension that seemed to cling to the walls like an invisible mist. Richard Mason, a man of many faces, found himself at a crossroads. The dinner party had been a near disaster, his true identity almost laid bare before the assembled guests. Yet, fate had granted him a narrow escape, and now whispers and suspicious glances followed him like shadows in the dimly lit corridors. As he retreated to the library, Richard's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. This room, with its towering shelves and the scent of aged leather and parchment, had always been his refuge. Here he could strategize, piece together the puzzle of the elder Whitaker's untimely demise, and perhaps find a way to extricate himself from the web of deceit that threatened to ensnare him. It was in this sanctuary that Richard's fingers brushed against something unusual, a slight indentation in the wall. Curiosity piqued, he pressed gently, and a hidden compartment swung open, revealing a diary. The diary belonged to the late patriarch of the Whitaker family, its pages filled with cryptic entries that spoke of betrayal and hinted at a hidden fortune. Richard's heart raced as he realized the significance of this discovery. The diary could be the key to unraveling the conspiracy that had claimed Thomas Whitaker's father. As Richard delved deeper into the diary's pages, a new struggle emerged within him. The moral implications of his deception weighed heavily on his conscience. He had assumed the identity of his injured friend, Thomas, to uncover the truth, but in doing so, he had become entangled in a dangerous charade. Complicating matters further was his growing affection for Helen, Thomas's fiancée. Her kindness and beauty had touched him in ways he had not anticipated, leaving him torn between duty and desire. The narrative took a dramatic turn as Richard, lost in thought, ventured into the mansion's dimly lit corridor. There, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, challenging his motives and allegiance. The figure's voice was low and menacing, hinting at knowledge of Richard's true identity. The confrontation was charged with tension, each word laden with subtext and unspoken threats. "You play a dangerous game, Mr. Mason," the figure intoned, stepping closer. "But you are not the only one with secrets." Richard's mind raced. He needed to maintain his cover, to extract information without revealing his hand. "I could say the same about you," he replied, his tone measured. "What do you know about the elder Whitaker's death?" The figure chuckled softly, a sound that sent a chill down Richard's spine. "More than you might think. The Whitaker legacy is a prize many covet, and not all are as they seem." This revelation raised the stakes. Richard realized that the conspiracy was more complex than he had imagined, with multiple factions vying for control of the family's legacy. He needed to act quickly, to turn this confrontation to his advantage. In a moment of quick thinking, Richard shifted the conversation, probing for weaknesses, for any hint that might lead him closer to the truth. "If you have information, now is the time to share it," he said, injecting a note of urgency into his voice. "The walls have ears, and time is not on our side." The figure hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing their features. "Very well," they conceded. "The elder Whitaker's death was no accident. Look to those who stand to gain the most." With this vital clue, the figure melted back into the shadows, leaving Richard alone in the corridor. He was shaken but resolute, understanding the perilous path he must navigate to reach the truth. Each step forward brought him closer to danger, but also closer to unraveling the mystery that had drawn him into this house of secrets. Retreating to his room, Richard reflected on the night's events. The weight of his mission pressed heavily upon him, yet his resolve was unbroken. He understood now that the stakes were higher than he had ever imagined, and the path to truth was fraught with peril. But he was determined to see it through, to uncover the secrets hidden within the house of danger, no matter the cost. The emotional journey was palpable, each moment of doubt and determination adding depth to his character. Richard's vulnerability and resolve were laid bare, his internal conflict a testament to the complexity of his mission. As he prepared for the challenges that lay ahead, he knew that the truth was within reach, yet the danger was ever present. Shadowy confrontation served as a crucial turning point in Richard's journey, escalating the suspense and complexity of the narrative. It deepened his character, highlighting his internal conflict and propelling the plot with new revelations and alliances. The subchapter bridged the gap between the near exposure at the dinner party and the impending climax, ensuring a seamless flow in the storytelling. As the mansion's walls seemed to close in around him, Richard Mason stood at the threshold of discovery, ready to confront the mysteries that lay hidden in the shadows. His journey was far from over, but with each revelation, he moved one step closer to unmasking the truth and uncovering the secrets that had remained buried for far too long. Chapter 5, The Final Revelation. Richard stood in the dimly lit chamber, the air thick with anticipation. Shadows danced across the walls as he pieced together the final clues, each revelation a step closer to the truth. The mansion's secret chamber, hidden from the world for decades, now served as the stage for the ultimate confrontation. As Richard faced the true antagonist, a figure cloaked in deception, the tension was palpable. The room seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the outcome of this battle of wits and courage. In the silence, Richard's voice cut through, steady and unwavering. "I know what happened to the elder Whitaker," he declared, his words echoing with the weight of truth. The antagonist's facade crumbled, revealing a tangled web of greed and betrayal. Richard's relentless pursuit of justice had finally unearthed the motive behind the elder Whitaker's death. It was a revelation that brought both shock and relief, answering the questions that had haunted him since his arrival. In this moment, Richard's character arc reached its zenith. He stood firm, embodying the courage and integrity he had long sought. The mansion, once a labyrinth of lies, now felt like a place of closure. As the truth unfolded, Richard realized that the shadows which had loomed so large were now dispelled by the light of revelation. This confrontation marked a turning point, not just in solving the mystery, but in Richard's journey. He emerged from the shadows, ready to embrace a future unburdened by the past. The final revelation had not only solved the mystery, but also set Richard on a path towards new beginnings. In the dimly lit study of the House of Danger, Richard Mason sat hunched over a sprawling collection of documents and artifacts. The room was cloaked in shadows, save for the flickering glow of a single lamp casting an intimate circle of light across the desk. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and a lingering tension that seemed to seep from the very walls. Richard's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts as he methodically sorted through the scattered clues, each piece a part of a larger, more ominous puzzle. Richard's eyes skimmed over the pages of a hidden diary, its contents filled with cryptic entries that hinted at secrets long buried. Nearby lay a letter, its edges frayed, the ink faded but legible enough to suggest a sinister conspiracy. Overhead, the creak of the mansion settling into the night seemed to echo his own unease. Richard's determination was palpable, his resolve steeled by the weight of the secrets he now carried. He was on the brink of a revelation, one that would shatter the facade of the Whitaker family's respectable veneer. As he sifted through the evidence, a pattern began to emerge, a connection between the diary, the letter, and snippets of overheard conversations that had previously seemed inconsequential. It was a moment of clarity, a sudden alignment of disparate elements that hit Richard with the force of a thunderbolt. The conspiracy was more intricate than he had imagined, a web spun with threads of deceit and ambition. The thrill of discovery coursed through him, mingled with a creeping dread of what lay ahead. Richard's journey had been one of transformation, a reluctant metamorphosis from a man hiding behind a borrowed identity to one who must now confront the truth head-on. His feelings for Helen, Thomas Whitaker's fiancée, complicated his mission, adding layers of emotional conflict. He found himself torn between loyalty to his friend and a burgeoning affection for Helen, who remained blissfully unaware of his true identity. This internal struggle was a crucible, forging Richard into a man of courage and integrity, yet haunted by the fear of betrayal. The atmosphere in the study shifted abruptly as the sound of footsteps approached, a soft but unmistakable tread that sent a jolt of adrenaline through Richard. Panic flared. Had someone discovered his investigation? The narrative tension ratcheted up as Richard scrambled to conceal his findings, his heart pounding in his chest. He quickly gathered the papers, shoving them into a drawer with a furtive glance toward the door. The footsteps paused, then retreated, leaving Richard with the unsettling reminder of the ever-present danger that lurked within the mansion's walls. This moment of tension served as a catalyst for Richard's resolve. He knew now that there was no turning back. The truth was a beacon, drawing him inexorably toward a confrontation with the shadowy forces at play. It was a pivotal decision, one that marked a turning point in his character arc. Richard understood that to reveal the truth, he must confront the antagonist, regardless of the personal cost. This decision resonated with newfound courage, a testament to the man he had become. The subchapter concluded on a note of high drama, setting the stage for the upcoming showdown in the mansion's secret chamber. Richard's journey was far from over, but the path was clear. He would face the truth with integrity, even as the shadows of the past loomed large. The emotional resonance was profound, leaving readers on the edge of their seats, eager to witness the resolution of a mystery that had woven itself into the very fabric of the Whittaker legacy. As Richard sat back, the weight of his decision settled over him like a cloak. The study, once a refuge, now felt like a crucible. Each revelation had brought him closer to the truth, yet also closer to peril. The mansion, with its hidden passages and secret rooms, was both a sanctuary and a trap, a place where the line between friend and foe blurred dangerously. Richard's mind drifted to Helen, her image a beacon of light amidst the encroaching darkness. He knew that his feelings for her could complicate the delicate balance he maintained, but the truth was a force that demanded to be reckoned with. With a deep breath, Richard steeled himself for the challenges ahead. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, each discovery a step closer to unmasking the true antagonist. The narrative promised a resolution that would tie together the threads of mystery and intrigue, a culmination of Richard's journey from deception to truth. For readers, the anticipation was palpable, each page a promise of revelations yet to come. Richard's story was one of transformation, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. As he prepared to confront the shadows that had haunted the Whittaker family, he knew that the truth was a double-edged sword, capable of both liberating and destroying. Yet in that moment, Richard embraced the uncertainty, his resolve a beacon that would guide him through the darkness. In the heart of the house of danger, amidst the whispers of the past and the shadows of the present, Richard Mason stood poised on the brink of discovery. The puzzle was nearly complete, and the truth, with all its complexities and consequences, awaited him. It was a journey that promised to test the limits of his courage and integrity, a journey that would leave readers breathless and eager for the next chapter in this gripping tale of mystery and suspense. The air was thick with anticipation as Richard Mason stood before the concealed entrance to the mansion's secret chamber. The library, with its towering shelves and the scent of aged paper, was silent, save for the faint creak of the floorboards under his feet. Richard's heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the gravity of the moment. He had followed the trail of clues with unwavering determination, and now the final piece of the puzzle lay just beyond the hidden door. With a steady hand, Richard pushed against the bookcase, revealing the narrow passageway that led into the heart of the Whittaker family's mysteries. The chamber was dimly lit, shadows dancing across the walls adorned with relics and portraits of ancestors long gone. This was more than a room. It was a vault of secrets, a battleground where truth and deception would soon collide. As Richard stepped inside, the air seemed to thicken, charged with the weight of untold stories. The room's silence was broken by the sound of footsteps, deliberate and measured. Emerging from the shadows was Reginald Whittaker, Thomas's uncle, his expression a mask of calculated calm. The revelation struck Richard like a lightning bolt. Reginald, the trusted family member, was the mastermind behind the elder Whittaker's death. "I see you've finally put the pieces together," Reginald remarked, his voice smooth yet laced with menace. "I must admit, I underestimated your tenacity." Richard met his gaze, the resolve in his eyes unwavering. "I know what you did, Reginald. You orchestrated Thomas's father's death, made it look like an accident. Why?" Reginald chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. "Why? For control, Richard. The family fortune, the power, it was all within my grasp. Thomas's father was a fool, unwilling to see the potential of our legacy." The dialogue crackled with tension, each word a weapon in the battle of wits. Richard felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him, the enormity of the truth threatening to overwhelm. Yet he stood firm, driven by a sense of justice that had grown with every step of his journey. "You won't get away with it," Richard declared, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "The truth will come out." Reginald's eyes narrowed, a flicker of anger breaking through his composed facade. "And what will you do, Richard? Expose me? You have no proof that anyone will believe." Richard's mind raced, recalling the evidence he had painstakingly gathered, the letters, the hidden diary, the whispered conversations. Each piece was a thread in the tapestry of deceit that Reginald had woven. He took a deep breath, the weight of the decision before him palpable. "I have enough," Richard replied, his voice gaining strength. "Enough to make them listen." Reginald's lips curled into a smirk, his confidence unshaken. "You could join me, you know. A share of the fortune, a life of comfort. It's all yours if you stay silent." The offer hung in the air, a tantalizing temptation that tugged at Richard's resolve. For a moment, doubt flickered in his mind. But then he thought of Thomas, his injured friend, and the memory of the elder Whitaker, a man who had deserved better than betrayal. "No," Richard said, his voice firm and resolute. "I won't be part of this. I won't betray Thomas or his father's memory." Reginald's expression hardened, the veneer of civility cracking as rage simmered beneath the surface. "Then you've made your choice," he spat, his words a prelude to the confrontation that followed. The struggle was both physical and emotional, a clash of ideals as much as a battle of strength. Richard and Reginald fought amidst the relics of the past, their movements a dance of desperation and determination. The chamber, once a silent witness, now echoed with the sounds of their struggle. In the heat of the moment, Richard's clarity solidified into action. With a deft maneuver, he turned the tide, gaining the upper hand. Reginald, caught off guard, stumbled, dodged, and Richard seized the opportunity to bring the confrontation to a decisive end. As the dust settled, Richard stood victorious, his integrity intact and his courage affirmed. The chamber, now a scene of revelation, was filled with the shocked faces of the remaining family members, drawn by the commotion. Richard, breathing heavily but resolute, addressed them, his voice carrying the weight of truth. "This is what happened," Richard began, his words weaving the narrative of Reginald's treachery. He presented the evidence, each piece a nail in the coffin of Reginald's schemes. The family listened, their disbelief giving way to understanding as the truth unfolded before them. The revelation was both shocking and satisfying, the answers that had eluded Richard now laid bare for all to see. The elder Whitaker's death, once a mystery shrouded in whispers, was finally brought to light, bringing closure to the haunting specter that had loomed over the mansion. As the family absorbed the truth, Richard felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had done what he set out to do, unmasking the man who had hidden behind a facade of trust and respectability. The journey had tested him, reshaping his character and solidifying his resolve. With the mystery resolved, Richard emerged from the shadows, his path forward clear. The chamber, once a place of secrets, was now a testament to his courage and integrity. As he stepped into the light, he knew that his journey was not yet over. Decisions awaited him, choices that would shape his future and his relationship with Helen. The showdown in the chamber was more than a resolution. It was a transformation. Richard Mason, the man who had once hidden behind a mask, now stood confidently in the light, a seeker of truth and protector of the innocent. The mansion, with its secrets laid bare, was no longer a house of danger, but a place where justice had prevailed. Richard Mason stood at the threshold of the truth, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The dim corridors of the House of Danger stretched before him, each step echoing with the ominous weight of what he was about to uncover. Shadows seemed to whisper secrets long buried, urging him forward, yet warning him of the dangers that lay ahead. The mansion, with its grand yet foreboding presence, felt alive, a silent guardian of the truths hidden within its walls. Driven by a relentless quest for answers, Richard retraced his steps through the labyrinthine corridors, each turn a step closer to the heart of the mystery. The air was thick with anticipation, and every creak of the floorboards seemed to mock his resolve. Yet he pressed on, guided by the knowledge that the truth was within reach, waiting to be unveiled. Finally, Richard reached the mansion's secret chamber, a place cloaked in mystery and forbidden knowledge. The room was dimly lit, its shadows playing tricks on the eye, but Richard was undeterred. The air was heavy with the scent of aged paper and dust, a testament to the secrets that had been kept hidden for so long. As he entered, he felt a chill run down his spine, a silent acknowledgement of the gravity of what he was about to discover. Before him lay a collection of documents and a series of photographs, the final pieces of the puzzle that would unravel the intricate web of deceit spun around the elder Whitaker's death. With trembling hands, Richard sifted through the papers, his eyes widening as the truth began to take shape. The revelation was staggering. A conspiracy involving not just the family but also trusted staff members, all orchestrated by a cunning antagonist whose identity had been shrouded until now. The antagonist, a shadowy figure who had lurked in the periphery of the narrative, emerged from the shadows, their presence both menacing and compelling. This confrontation was not just a battle of wits, but a test of Richard's resolve and integrity. As the antagonist attempted to manipulate the truth, weaving lies and half-truths with practiced ease, Richard stood firm, using the knowledge he had painstakingly gathered to counter each deceit. This pivotal moment was a crucible for Richard, a test of his courage and determination. The tension reached a crescendo as he confronted the antagonist, his internal conflict mirrored by the external danger. Richard's growth was evident as he embraced his courage, standing firm against the antagonist's threats. The truth about the elder Whitaker's death was finally unveiled, revealing a tale of greed, betrayal, and hidden loyalties that had haunted the mansion. As the confrontation unfolded, Richard found himself at a crossroads. The antagonist, with their silver tongue and cunning mind, offered Richard a choice: to continue the deception or to reveal his true identity, risking everything he had worked for. It was a moment of profound introspection, a test of his character and values. Drawing upon the strength he had found within himself, Richard chose the path of truth. He revealed his true identity, casting aside the mask he had worn for so long. The decision was not without its consequences, but it was a decision that brought closure to the mystery and marked a turning point in his character arc. The resolution of this subchapter was both shocking and satisfying. Richard's actions brought closure to the mystery, unraveling the tangled web of deceit that had ensnared the Whitaker family. The emotional weight of the truth and the consequences of his decisions left a lasting impact on Richard, transforming him in ways he had never imagined. As the subchapter drew to a close, Richard emerged from the secret chamber, transformed by the revelations, ready to face whatever came next. The mansion, once a place of danger and deceit, now stood as a testament to his courage and determination. The shadows that had once haunted him were now behind him, replaced by the light of truth and understanding. The transition to the next subchapter was seamless, with Richard reflecting on the truth he had uncovered and the path that lay ahead. The narrative ensured that readers were left with a sense of anticipation and fulfillment, eager to follow Richard's journey as he stepped into the light, leaving the shadows of the mansion behind. In the heart of the 1930s, a time when shadows seemed to stretch longer and secrets were buried deeper, Richard Mason's journey through the House of Danger was a testament to the power of truth and the resilience of the human spirit. As he stood on the precipice of discovery, he realized that the journey was far from over. The truth had been unveiled, but the path ahead was still fraught with challenges and uncertainties. Yet, armed with the knowledge and courage he had gained, Richard was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The mansion, with its grand yet foreboding presence, had been a crucible for his character, shaping him into the man he was destined to become. As he stepped into the light, leaving the shadows behind, Richard Mason's journey was far from over, but he was ready to face it with courage and determination. Chapter 6, A New Beginning. As the soft glow of dawn filtered through the mansion's towering windows, Richard Mason stood at the threshold of a new beginning. The mystery that had entangled his life was now unraveled, yet the echoes of its lessons lingered. The House of Danger, with its secrets now laid bare, had been both a crucible and a classroom. Richard had emerged transformed, armed with insights that would guide his uncertain future. Reflecting on his journey, Richard understood that the path to truth is often obscured by shadows of deceit. The mansion had taught him that appearances could be deceiving, a lesson underscored by the labyrinthine corridors and hidden rooms that had concealed more than just secrets. Each revelation had demanded courage, a quality Richard had found in abundance within himself. Leaving the mansion behind, Richard contemplated the road ahead. The future was a canvas, blank yet brimming with the possibility of new adventures. The resolution of the mystery offered emotional closure, yet it left some questions tantalizingly open-ended. Helen, the woman who had unknowingly shared in his perilous charade, remained a beacon of hope. Their relationship, forged in the crucible of danger, hinted at possibilities beyond the confines of the House of Danger. As Richard walked away from the shadows of the past, he carried with him a newfound resolve. The experience had not only honed his skills, but also reshaped his perspective on trust and loyalty. Now, with the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead, Richard embraced his new beginning, ready to navigate the intricate dance of life where truth and deception often waltzed hand in hand. Standing at the mansion's grand entrance, Richard Mason paused, casting a lingering glance back at the imposing structure that had been both a crucible of danger and a wellspring of revelation. The House of Danger, as he had come to know it, loomed with its shadowy corridors and whispered secrets, a testament to the tangled web of deceit and mystery he had navigated. As the crisp 1930s air filled his lungs, he reflected on his initial arrival, the trepidation that had gripped him, and the heavy mantle of assuming Thomas Whitaker's identity. The journey had been nothing short of transformative. Richard recalled the key moments that had defined his path, the discovery of hidden passages that snaked through the mansion like veins, the cryptic letter that had hinted at a conspiracy, and the tense dinner party where his true identity had almost been laid bare. Each memory was a stepping stone, marking his evolution from a man hiding behind a mask to someone who had embraced his true self. The internal conflict he faced, particularly his burgeoning feelings for Helen, complicated his mission, but also brought clarity to his values. As he stood there, the lessons learned from the elder Whitaker's mystery crystallized in his mind. The truth, he realized, was often buried beneath layers of deception, requiring courage to uncover. Trust and betrayal had danced a dangerous tango throughout his investigation, teaching him that appearances could be deceiving, but that genuine connections like the one he had formed with Helen were invaluable. The mansion, with its hidden nooks and enigmatic aura, had tested his resolve, but it had also been the crucible in which his courage and integrity were forged. Richard's emotional journey was reaching its resolution. He felt a sense of liberation, having confronted his fears and emerged stronger. His hopes for the future, particularly the possibility of a relationship with Helen, remained open-ended but optimistic. The narrative of his life was no longer one of shadows and deceit. It was a canvas of potential, painted with the vibrant hues of hope and new beginnings. Decision and departure were now inevitable. Richard resolved to leave the House of Danger behind, symbolizing his readiness to move forward and embrace the unknown. As he walked away, he carried with him the knowledge and courage gained from his experiences, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The mansion, with its secrets now laid bare, was a chapter closed, yet it had indelibly marked his life. The transition to new beginnings was seamless, as Richard's journey encapsulated the essence of change and growth. His story was a microcosm of the larger narrative arc, hinting at future possibilities and leaving readers with a sense of hope and anticipation for his next adventure. The final scene, as Richard stepped into the sunlight, carried the promise of fresh starts and uncharted paths. Reflecting on the journey, Richard understood that his experiences within the mansion were not just about solving a mystery, but about uncovering his own truths. The mansion had been a mirror, reflecting his fears and desires, forcing him to confront the man he was and the man he aspired to be. In practice, this journey was as much about self-discovery as it was about unraveling the Whitaker family's secrets. On a related note, the character growth Richard experienced was profound. He had entered the mansion as a man burdened by the weight of his friend's identity, yet he emerged with a newfound sense of self. Analysis reveals that his transformation was not just external. It was a deep internal shift that altered his perception of trust, love, and courage. As an illustration, the moment he chose to reveal his true identity to Helen was pivotal, marking the point where his internal and external worlds aligned. What's crucial here is the understanding that Richard's journey is emblematic of the broader human experience. The impact is meaningful as it underscores the universal themes of identity, trust, and the courage to face one's fears. The mansion, with its labyrinthine passages, served as a metaphor for the complexities of life, where each decision leads to a new discovery, a new challenge. The lessons Richard learned are applicable beyond the confines of the story. In life, as in the House of Danger, truth is often obscured, requiring perseverance and bravery to uncover. The relationships we form, the connections we nurture, are what anchor us amidst the chaos. Richard's bond with Helen, though fraught with complications, was a beacon of authenticity in a world of deception. As Richard departed the mansion, his journey was far from over. The knowledge and courage he had gained were tools he would carry into the future. The resolution of his story provided emotional satisfaction and thematic closure, yet it also left room for future developments. The open-ended nature of his relationship with Helen hinted at the possibilities that lay ahead, inviting readers to imagine the next chapter of his life. In conclusion, Richard's journey through the House of Danger was a testament to the power of courage and integrity. It was a story of transformation, of uncovering truths both external and internal. As he stepped into the sunlight, leaving the shadows of the mansion behind, Richard Mason was not just a man who had solved a mystery. He was a man who had found himself, ready to embrace whatever the future held. Richard Mason stood on the mansion's grand terrace, the morning sun casting a golden hue over the sprawling estate. As he gazed out at the vast gardens, each memory of the past weeks played vividly in his mind, like scenes from a gripping drama. The House of Danger, once a labyrinth of secrets and shadows, now felt like a chapter closing in his life. Yet the question lingered, what would the next chapter hold? The terrace beneath Richard's feet felt solid, a stark contrast to the uncertainty swirling within him. He had unraveled the mystery of the elder Whitaker's death, a task that had demanded every ounce of his cunning and courage. Assuming Thomas Whitaker's identity had been a necessary deception, one that had weighed heavily on his conscience. Yet, through this guise, Richard had uncovered truths that might have otherwise remained buried forever. This internal conflict was a testament to his growth, from a man driven by necessity to one who had embraced a newfound integrity. As he stood there, Richard's thoughts were interrupted by the gentle rustling of leaves in the garden below. It was Helen, her presence a calming contrast to the turmoil he had faced. Together they walked through the garden, the air rich with the scent of blooming flowers, a stark reminder of life's resilience. Their conversation, though laden with subtext, was a balm to Richard's weary soul. Helen, aware of his true identity, expressed gratitude for his bravery and honesty. Her words were like a soothing melody, each note resonating with the bond they had formed despite the circumstances. "Richard," Helen began, her voice soft yet steady, "I know the risks you took, the danger you faced, and for that, I am grateful." Richard paused, taking in her words. "Helen, your strength and resilience have been a beacon through these dark times. I admire you more than you know." This exchange was pivotal. It addressed the open-ended nature of their relationship, acknowledging the possibility of a future together, while recognizing the need for time and healing. It was a moment that left Richard with a sense of hope and potential, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. As the morning sun climbed higher, Richard prepared to leave the mansion. Each step through the grand halls was a farewell to a place that had been both a prison and a sanctuary. Along the way, he encountered various staff members, each offering a moment of connection and closure. These interactions humanized the story, illustrating the impact of Richard's journey on those around him. They reinforced the lesson he had learned well. Appearances can be deceiving. At the kitchen, Mrs. Hargrove, the cook, offered a warm smile. "You've brought light to this house, Mr. Mason. We will miss you. Richard nodded, touched by her words. "Thank you, Mrs. Hargrove. Your kindness has been a comfort." In the library, Mr. Bentley, the butler, extended a hand. "Safe travels, sir. May your future be as bright as your courage." These farewells were not just goodbyes. They were acknowledgments of the journey Richard had undertaken and the transformation he had undergone. They were reminders of the connections he had forged, even in the midst of deception and danger. Finally, Richard found himself standing at the mansion's gates, looking out at the road ahead. The path was uncertain, but his resolve was clear. The narrative voice captured his newfound clarity and determination. Richard understood that his journey didn't end here. Instead, it marked the beginning of a new chapter, filled with uncertainty, but also with endless possibilities. As he stepped forward, Richard reflected on the lessons learned. The mansion, with its secrets and shadows, had been a crucible, forging him into a man of integrity and courage. He had faced danger, uncovered truths, and forged bonds that would last a lifetime. Now, he was ready to embrace the future, whatever it might hold. In this moment of introspection, Richard realized that the journey was as important as the destination. The challenges he had faced, the truths he had uncovered, and the relationships he had formed were all part of a larger tapestry, one that would continue to unfold as he moved forward. As Richard walked away from the House of Danger, he carried with him the knowledge that he had made a difference. He had brought light to a place shrouded in darkness, and in doing so, had found his own path to redemption. The road ahead was filled with uncertainty, but Richard was undaunted. He was ready to embrace whatever the future held, confident in his ability to navigate the challenges that lay ahead. In the end, deciding the future was not just about Richard's journey. It was about the journey we all take as we face the unknown. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope, always the possibility of a new beginning. And as Richard Mason stepped into the light of a new day, he did so with the knowledge that the future was his to shape, his to decide. Richard Mason stood in the grand library of the House of Danger, a place that had become both a refuge and a crucible of discovery. The towering shelves loomed around him, filled with the collected wisdom and secrets of generations. Dim light filtered through the tall windows, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper the tales of the past. It was here, amidst the scent of aged paper and leather, that Richard found himself at a crossroads. Reflecting on the whirlwind of events that had brought him to this moment, Richard realized how much he had changed. The journey of impersonating Thomas Whitaker had been fraught with peril and moral quandaries. Yet it was this very deception that had revealed profound truths about himself. He had learned that courage often lies in the willingness to face uncomfortable truths, and that integrity is forged in the fires of adversity. As he scanned the rows of books, Richard's eyes fell upon an old photograph tucked inside a volume on the history of the Whitaker family. The image depicted a time of innocence and unity, a stark contrast to the turmoil he had uncovered. This discovery stirred memories of his own family, relationships he had neglected in pursuit of ambition and adventure. The photograph served as a poignant reminder that light persists even in the darkest of times. Determined to mend these familial bonds, Richard resolved to reach out and rebuild the connections he had let slip away. He understood now that true strength lay not in isolation, but in vulnerability and openness. It was a lesson hard learned, but one that promised a richer, more fulfilling future. Just then, Helen entered the library, her presence both a comfort and a complication. Her eyes met Richard's, a silent exchange that spoke volumes. Their interactions had always been a delicate dance, charged with unspoken emotions and tentative hopes. Helen, too, stood at a crossroads, her future intertwined with Richard's, yet uncertain. As they discussed the mansion's fate, the conversation naturally shifted to their own futures. Richard voiced his desire to seek out new adventures, to embrace the unknown, with the same determination that had driven him to unravel the mansion's mysteries. Helen listened, her own aspirations bubbling to the surface. She hinted at a potential collaboration, a partnership that could redefine both their paths. Their dialogue was filled with hope, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The challenges they had faced together had forged a bond between them, one that promised new beginnings and hopeful possibilities. It was a reminder that while the past shapes us, it does not define us. Richard's journey, marked by deception and discovery, had led him to a place of renewal and potential. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the mansion's entrance, Richard and Helen stood side by side. The scene was both an ending and a beginning, a metaphor for the cyclical nature of life. Richard took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past lift as he stepped forward into the future. In the heart of the 1930s, a time when shadows seemed to stretch longer and secrets were buried deeper, Richard Mason's story unfolded within the grand, yet foreboding mansion known as the House of Danger. This tale, woven with mystery and intrigue, centered around a man whose identity was as much a mystery as the house itself. Richard Mason, portrayed by the enigmatic Onslow Stevens, had stepped into the shoes of his injured friend Thomas Whitaker. Thomas, a man of wealth and stature, had been grievously injured under suspicious circumstances. With Thomas unable to fulfill his duties, Richard was drawn into a world of deception and danger, tasked with investigating the mysterious death of Thomas's father, a death shrouded in whispers and unanswered questions. The mansion, a character in its own right, stood as a testament to the wealth and power of the Whitaker family. Its corridors echoed with the footsteps of those who had come and gone, and its walls seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the next secret to be revealed. It was within these walls that Richard navigated a labyrinth of lies, each twist and turn bringing him closer to the truth or further into peril. As Richard delved deeper into the mystery, he found himself entangled in a web of deceit and betrayal. The stakes were raised when he encountered Helen, Thomas's beautiful and unsuspecting fiancée, played by the captivating Janet Chandler. Helen, unaware of Richard's true identity, became an unwitting participant in this dangerous charade. Her presence added a layer of complexity to Richard's mission. As he struggled to maintain the facade while grappling with his growing feelings for her, the plot thickened as Richard uncovered clues that suggested the death of Thomas's father was no accident. The mansion, with its hidden passages and secret rooms, became both a sanctuary and a trap. Each discovery brought Richard closer to the truth, yet also closer to danger, as those who wished to keep the family's secrets buried would stop at nothing to protect them. As the tension mounted, Richard relied on his wits and courage to navigate the treacherous waters of deceit. The line between friend and foe blurred, and trust became a luxury he could not afford. In a world where appearances were deceiving and danger lurked around every corner, Richard confronted the ultimate question: who could he trust when everyone was not who they seemed? House of Danger, The Man Who Was Not Who He Said He Was, is a gripping tale of mystery and suspense, where the past and present collide in a deadly game of cat and mouse. For fans of the mystery and thriller genre, this story promises to keep you on the edge of your seat as you join Richard Mason on his perilous journey to uncover the truth and unmask the man who was not who he said he was. The subchapter, Hopeful Possibilities, encapsulates the essence of renewal and the promise of what lies beyond. It underscores the theme that while the past shapes us, it does not define us. Richard's journey, marked by deception and discovery, ultimately leads to a place of hope and potential, inviting readers to ponder their own paths and the endless possibilities that await.
The matter of the House of Danger is closed. Two figures drew the most suspicion and delivered the least. The butler, whose penetrating manner suggested he saw through everything from the moment our man arrived, saw through nothing in particular. He was simply a man whose profession had trained him to notice what guests tried to hide, not this secret, just any secret. And the fiancée, whose sharp attention felt like detection at every turn, was not investigating at all. She was simply a woman trying to understand a man who was not quite the man she thought she knew. What solved the case was not a hidden document or a physical clue. It was confrontation. The protagonist, himself a man living under a false name, understood better than anyone what a performance under pressure looks like, and he knew exactly when to apply the pressure that made the performance collapse. What the House of Danger demonstrated was this: the most dangerous deception in any investigation is not the one the suspect is running, it is the one the investigator is running on himself. The moment our man stopped pretending and started confronting, the house had no more secrets to keep. If you enjoyed this case, subscribe to the Glitch Bureau.